Hey, True Believers, Englentine here, and well, Sina Grace spoke out. As Pride Month comes to a close, it's time I spoke candidly about my experience at Marvel Comics. So I've read through this, actually I skimmed through it. I figured, alright, you know what, this might actually be worth going over and make a video out of. If he was messed around by Marvel Comics, you know, we don't like his comic book, but come on. You know, nobody wants to be messed around by the people they work for. So it says, to date, I've always been honest about the joy of writing Iceman's journey as an out-gay superhero, or a, what do they call that? Transferred, or whatever it is. You know, you can't gay the way, you can't pray the gay away, but apparently you can telepathically put it in. But I've skirted around the challenges that came along with it, this partially because I prefer to give off an upbeat vibe. And there's also fear that my truth, there is no my truth, there is no your truth, there is the truth, will affect my career. With more corporations patting themselves on the back for profit-led partnerships wherein celebrities take selfies in rainbow apparel, and with buzz that Marvel Studios is preparing to debut their first gay character in the upcoming Eternals movie, there is an urgency to discuss the realities of creating queer pop culture in a hostile or ambivalent environment. Hopefully, my takeaways will serve as a guide for people in positions of power to consider when advocating for more nuanced and rich representation. Snore. Let's see. In an ideal world, embracing our stories and empowering us to tell them yield far more profitable and less messy results than what I encountered while writing Iceman. Alrighty, let's break this down a little bit. So, he's mad that corporations are saying, yes, we've got gay characters while there is a gay character coming up, but he wants to continue having gay characters. Does he not want them to announce it, or do they... Okay, let's follow through and let's find out what's going on here. Stand by your people. Okay, yeah, alright. It's no surprise that I got the attention of trolls and irate fans for taking on this job. There was already backlash around the manner in which Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, came out. He didn't come out. He was turned. That was the problem. And Marvel needed to smooth that landing and put a so what to the decision. After a point, I could almost laugh off people making light of my death. See, okay, now, this is like the whole, what's her name, Rose Tico thing. If you don't like the character, fine. Talk about that, but don't go after the actress. In this case, yeah, I thought Iceman sucked, but there's no reason to wish any kind of death on Sina Grace because he wrote Iceman. Remember, it wasn't even his idea to make Iceman gay. It's just, he wrote it. He wrote a comic book. Anybody making light of my death and saying they have cancerous AIDS from my book, now, that's not making light of his. If they're saying that they got AIDS from reading the book, then that's on them. They're still ignorant as shit, but that's not calling Sina Grace anything. Or insinuating I'm capable of sexual assault. Now, see, if you go with what the women on the left, far left say, you are, just because you're a man. Okay. Well, he does say almost. Between Iceman's cancellation and its subsequent revival, Marvel reached out and said they noticed threatening behavior on my Twitter account. Only after asking me to send proof of all nasty popping. Well, yeah, that's okay. If you're saying, oh, I'm getting all this bad stuff, show proof. A lot of us would be on your side, Sina, if you showed proof. I don't like your book. You're a really bad writer. But I'm not on the side of anyone who threatens you. It's just bad writing. That's all. And if you're someone who threatens somebody because they write a bad comic, you're a dumbass. Let me make sure there's no middle ground here. If you threaten someone because they write a bad comic book, or they star in a bad movie, or because they do anything that's not directly to you, you are a fucking dick. Honestly, you're the bad guy in that situation. Okay, let's see. So anyway, he goes on to say an editor called these conversations always happen over the phone, offering to provide tips and tricks to deal with the cyberbullying. I cut him off. All he was going to do was tell me how to fend for myself. I needed Marvel to stand by me with more work opportunities to show the trolls that I was more than a diversity hire. We'll keep you in mind. I got so tired of that sentence. Guess what? You may think you have talent. You have not yet showed it. But putting a gay guy on a gay character, that was a diversity hire. I'm sorry to tell you this. You are not the bad guy in this situation, Sina. Marvel is. But you are a diversity hire. You may have talent. Show it. That's fine. If they're not going to give you the opportunity to show it, then you need to create your own comic and show it. Okay? Say what you will about Mags Visaggio, but she created her own comic book and showed that she really doesn't have a lot of talent. She writes the same story over and over again. Anyway, also, Marvel doesn't have to give you a job, and if your book is not selling, and it wasn't, there you go. They don't have to give you a job because you're gay. They need to. If you made money for them, they would have kept you. Even after a year of new editor-in-chief saying I was talented and needed to be on a book that wasn't the gay character, the only assignment I got outside of Iceman was 6 pages long about a version of Wolverine where he had diamond claws. Fabulous? Yes. Heterosexual? Yes. Still kind of the gay character, though. Why? Because he had diamond claws? Okay. We as creators are strongly encouraged to build a platform on social media and use it to promote work-for-hire projects owned by massive corporations. But when the going gets tough, these dudes get going real quick. You mean when you're not making money for them, they go look for somebody who will. Congratulations. You're on a work-for-hire basis. That's what they're going to do. They want to make a profit, and that's not a bad thing. Believe in the work. Okay. You may be asking if my Iceman book was any good, or if I'm just being sour grapes over a bad work experience. Believe me, I asked that too. From the get-go, my first editor asserted that Iceman would be DOA if it were too gay, while also telling me to prepare for a cancellation anyway, given that most X-Men titles don't last beyond a year. Never mind that my work on Iceman had gotten positive press in the New York Times. Dude, that's an incredibly leftist paper. They probably didn't even read the book. Just the idea of a gay superhero would get them to give you positive press, whether it was good or not. Or that in Spice... Oh, and by the way, I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying that that's the New York Times for you. Or that in spite of, since deleted critical sandbagging, the series nets glowing reviews on Amazon. Well, if you sandbag negative reviews, it's all going to be positive. Marvel still treated me as someone to be contained, and the book as something to be nervous about. Do you know how hard it is not to argue with a publicist when he's explaining the values of announcing Iceman's revival via the Marvel homepage? Sis, that's a burial. Instead of clapping back, I just went and got myself more press from the New York Times. From there, they tightened my leash. I had to get all opportunities pre-approved and all interviews pre-approved. This would be fine if it was the standard, but I assure you, none of my straight male colleagues seek permission to go on podcasts promoting their books. Podcasts or national newspaper? Two different things there, brother. Make sure that you are speaking on the same terms. Trust me, going on my show to talk about your comic and going on Jimmy Fallon will wield two different kinds of results, okay? What Marvel should have done... Now, once again, let me back up a little bit. If that's the case. Now, you said you went to a national newspaper, but had you actually gone to a small podcast and they said, don't do that, that's a different statement. Give us the real seat at the table. There was a moment before Iceman was canceled where I wrote the editor-in-chief Alexis Alonso an email pleading for a Hail Mary arc. I explained that Iceman was landing with a newer generation of readers who focused more on binge reading than month-to-month periodicals. The series needed time in the book market before its true strength could be assessed. To Axel's credit, he was warm to the idea and even gave me an extra month. But when he left Marvel, that idea got brushed away. Of course, I was right. The first 2 volumes sold like gangbusters, thanks to word of mouth, librarian love, and support from retailers big and small. When the series returned, no one at Marvel asked me, what do you think landed with the readers? Nor did they ask the question that Axel did, what matters to your community? So when I wrote what I thought the fans would be into, a story about a man learning to be a better ally in the war against hate, editorial totally missed its value. Okay. We're all in the war against hate. Everyone, everybody. See, you have, and this is part of the problem with Iceman and a lot of the books that could be dubbed SJW. You prefer to think people who agree with you on everything is for the war or against the war on hate, or you know what I'm saying, against hate, and everybody who disagrees just the slightest is just hateful. We've seen it. We've seen it on Twitter. We've seen it in the pages of the comics. And that's what separates people. That's why your book tanks, because you literally point and go, I don't want you to buy this. You point to at least half the audience and say, don't get this. It's not for you. And then you complain about sales. Doesn't work that way. You want a book for everyone. So if you want a war against hate book, then you've got to just say, you know what? Hate is bad. Boom. Everyone's an ally. You see, you got to write as if everybody is on your side, but you don't. You have to say, you need to learn how to be an ally. That means you got to follow my rules. No, that's not the way it should go. Alrighty, Seat at the Table Part 2, the shade of it all. All of the weird drama I put up with crystallized when I created a drag queen mutant first called Shade, now called Dark Veil. I told my editor that Shade would be a big deal for X fans and asked how we could promote, or how we should promote her. He said, leave it up to the reader's interpretation. Everyone at Marvel shrugged off 2 years of goodwill and acted like I'd coordinated behind their backs on an announcement that made headlines. Beyond mentioning on Instagram the queens who inspired the character, I didn't coordinate shit, of course. Their head publicist can't admit that my quotes were pre-approved from an unreleased interview. At this point, I stopped believing that there'd be any more work for me. There were so many shady moves on their end that I'm still having trouble putting into language. But it all aligned with an experience I had in retail where a corrupt manager kept lying and moving the goalposts in order to keep me selling in a department I did not want to work in. Okay. Let's say that right here, you are writing a big-ass blog about how you were treated badly, and you put in a line, there were so many shady moves on their end, yet you don't list those shady moves. And that makes it hard to be on your side. It makes it hard for us to believe. And you could be telling absolutely 100% the truth. We're like, oh, this guy's way too gay for us. We can't have him here. They could have been saying that. But you talk about them moving the goalposts. That's what you do. That's what you're doing. Once again, they wanted proof. And then you say there were so many shady moves, but you don't mention them. You're moving the goalposts. You want people to believe you sight unseen. I offered to give Dark Veil a proper character bio, and I walked away. I recognize that some of my complaints can be filed under "This is Freelance Life." Yes. I am aware that it was not a queer person of color who joked to me that it's not a matter of if Marvel you over, it's a matter of when, that came from a cis white male. The same day turns around without warning. The work emails on Christmas week, that's freelance BS. Truly, I don't even think of this as discrimination. I call it general ineptness. It's my belief that if we are telling stories about heroes doing the right thing in the face of adversity, wouldn't the hope be to embody those ideals as individuals? Instead of feeling like I worked with some of the most inspiring and brave people in comics, I was surrounded by cowards. Truly, I hate writing this. No, you don't. Does anybody get the idea? There's like, God, this is going to be the hardest thing I ever wrote. No, you do not. In keeping with Pride Month, I am proud of the work I did on Iceman. Somebody should be. I love the book. It sucks that I might be tarnishing its legacy going public about how cookies were made. That said, the time for self-congratulating is over, and folks should be earnestly listening when they ask, what could we have done better? Here's what you could have done better. 1, you could have used a gay character. Not turned Iceman. That's on Brian Michael Bendis. That's not on you. And as I say many times on this channel, Brian Michael Bendis sucks. That's not on you. You could have then told the story of young Bobby Drake using young Bobby Drake. You used old Bobby Drake to tell the story of a teenager. And that was one of the big problems. It wasn't that he was too gay. It's that he acted way too young. He acted stupid. Your writing was not good, Sina. This was a guy who really, honestly, once again, it would have fit if you were writing about a teenager, if you were writing about a young man coming of age. Because that's what you did. You did a coming of age story with a character that had been around for 60 years. He wasn't the right character for the story you were trying to tell. With the right character, it may have passed. It may have actually been halfway decent. But Iceman was not the right character. You did get screwed over, but you got screwed over at the very beginning. All the other things, of course, you have to offer proof. I don't know. It sucks if this is all true. It really does. You know, but the thing is Marvel's going to promote the books that are making the money. Seriously. And Iceman didn't make the money. It really didn't. We see when a trade paperback goes bonkers. We see when things are successful. Whether they're trade paperbacks, whether they're digital or anything. When something goes viral, just to put that word onto it, people know about it. That wasn't Iceman. Sorry that they treated you poorly, Sina. But as you said yourself, that's the life. That's the freelance life, man. Anyway, guys, that's my take on what he just wrote here. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and share, subscribe if you actually like the video. If you like the channel, by all means, please do that. Don't forget to click on the notification bell and make sure your notifications for YouTube are on. That's what they're requiring these days. And if you don't mind, if you like the stuff we do, if you want to help the channel out and support the channel, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi, drop $1 in the till. On Ko-Fi, you can commission a video on any of the topics we do, the comic book origins, the really that good, really that bad, or, the top 10s, all sorts of stuff. And links are in the description below. I also have a BitChute. And, so by all means, check it out over there. I love comics. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody who's already done all that. And to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.